The twin suns were slowly sinking behind the jagged mountains of the planet Zerathis, casting long shadows over the barren valleys. Dust swirled in the cold wind, carrying a strange faint hum, as if the planet itself was whispering secrets. Among the rocky terrain, a lone human traveler, Ethan, moved carefully, his boots crunching over the strange crimson soil. He had visited many planets before, but Zerathis felt different alive. Almost sentient, Ethan's ship had broken down unexpectedly near this remote valley, leaving him with only his backpack, a basic survival kit, and a sense of unease that prickled his skin. He had explored countless alien worlds, but something about this place made his heart race. Shadows moved where they shouldn't, and the wind seemed to carry whispers words he could not understand. As he climbed a rocky ridge, a faint glow caught his eye. Nestled between two massive rocks was a small clearing, bathed in a soft, pulsating light. Ethan approached cautiously, his instincts telling him to stay alert. In the center of the clearing, he saw a tiny figure curled up under a glowing plant. She was no taller than a human child, with pale violet skin and eyes that shimmered like liquid silver. The girl was asleep, her breathing shallow and peaceful, as if unaware of the strange world around her. Ethan knelt down slowly, studying her from a safe distance. She was beautiful, in a way that was both alien and familiar, her small hands clutching a worn piece of cloth that looked centuries old. He wondered how she had come to be alone here, on a dangerous planet with predators he had never seen. Something about her made Ethan feel a strange warmth in his chest. He knew he should leave her alone, but he could not. Carefully, he reached out his hand, brushing a strand of silvery hair from her face. The girl stirred, her eyes fluttering open, but instead of fear, they widened with curiosity. "It's okay," Ethan whispered gently, even though he doubted she understood his language. She tilted her head, examining him with those shimmering eyes. Then, almost instinctively, she leaned closer and rested her tiny head on his lap. Ethan froze. His mind raced. He had expected fear, but not trust. Not this sudden connection. As he sat there, feeling the faint pulse of life radiating from her, the wind seemed to shift. Shadows lengthened unnaturally, and a distant roar echoed through the valley. Ethan's senses snapped into alert mode. Something was coming, something that had been tracking the girl. He glanced around, trying to find the source, but the rocky landscape gave no answers. The girl stirred again, mumbling softly in her alien tongue. Her words were melodic, almost musical, but incomprehensible. Ethan smiled faintly, stroking her hair. "Don't worry. I'll protect you," he said, though he knew he could not promise safety in a world this wild. She closed her eyes again, her trust in him unspoken but complete. Minutes passed like hours. Ethan felt a mix of awe and fear. He had never seen anything like her, not in all his travels. She seemed ordinary, yet extraordinary, fragile, yet powerful, in ways he could not yet understand. The glow from the plant bathed them both in soft light, making the valley seem less threatening. But he knew danger lurked nearby. Then, suddenly the ground trembled. A low growl echoed from somewhere in the shadows. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He knew the valley was home to creatures far larger and more dangerous than anything he had faced. Slowly he shifted, keeping the girl close to him. She stirred slightly, her small hands gripping his clothes. Sensing his fear, even without understanding it, Ethan took a deep breath. "We have to move," he murmured. Carefully he stood, carrying her in his arms. The glow from the plant faded behind them, and the shadows grew deeper. He could hear movement. Something was following, silent but deadly. Yet, despite the fear, he could not help but marvel at the girl in his arms. She was a mystery, a puzzle he wanted to solve, and perhaps the key to something much larger than he could imagine. Before stepping into the darkening valley, Ethan looked down at the girl, Don't worry. I won't let anything happen to you, he promised again. She closed her eyes, trusting him completely, and in that moment, he felt a bond that went beyond words, beyond worlds. As they disappeared into the shadows, a voice echoed softly in Ethan's mind, one he was sure was not real. Your journey has only begun. The valley grew darker as Ethan carried the small alien girl through the rocky terrain. Shadows twisted unnaturally, and the wind howled through the jagged peaks like voices warning him to turn back. Yet he pressed on, moving with careful steps. Every instinct in him screamed danger, but he could not leave the girl alone. Something about her presence, the way her tiny body seemed to glow faintly under his touch, made him feel both responsibility and awe. After what felt like hours, he reached a small cave hidden behind a curtain of hanging vines. The glow from bioluminescent plants illuminated the entrance, casting a soft, calming light inside. Ethan gently placed the girl on a smooth rock and sat beside her. She blinked her silver eyes at him, observing every movement. For a moment, the world felt still. Then she stretched her small arms and let out a sound, a mixture of a hum and a trill that echoed softly through the cave. Ethan froze. The sound seemed to interact with the glowing plants around them. Their light pulsed in rhythm with her hum, brighter and warmer than before. What? Are you? Ethan whispered, mostly to himself. The girl tilted her head, staring at him, then slowly placed her hand on one of the glowing plants. The plant reacted immediately, bending and swaying as if alive, and tiny sparks of light danced from its tips. Ethan's heart raced. This girl. She was not ordinary. He tried to speak gently. Can you understand me? He reached out his hand again. She studied him for a moment, then, without warning, pressed her small fingers to his paw. A jolt of energy ran through him, a sensation both strange and familiar. Images flashed in his mind, visions of her home, a world full of strange creatures, and a great conflict that had left her alone. Ethan staggered back, breathing heavily. Your memories. Are you showing them to me? He asked, confused. The girl's eyes shimmered with a strange light, almost like tears reflecting the twin suns outside. She nodded ever so slightly, her expression both sad and wary. Suddenly, a distant roar shook the entrance of the cave. Ethan's head snapped up. The sound was deep, guttural, and full of hunger. Something massive was approaching, tracking her energy. He realized the glowing pulse around her was not just beautiful, it was dangerous. It could attract predators, hunters, or worse. The girl looked at him, wide-eyed, almost scared. She tried to speak, forming sounds that he could not understand, yet her meaning was clear. They were coming for her. Ethan felt a surge of protective instinct. He had faced dangers before, but nothing like this. This child, this fragile alien, was unlike anything he had ever known. Yet she depended on him completely. He grabbed a small pack from his back, pulling out basic survival tools and a compact energy blade. We need to hide. Fast, he whispered. The girl's eyes followed every movement, seemingly understanding the urgency, even if she did not know the words. As they moved deeper into the cave, Ethan noticed strange markings on the wall's ancient symbols glowing faintly in the dark. The girl paused, touching them with a small hand. The symbols flared brightly, illuminating hidden tunnels and revealing a path forward. Ethan realized that the girl's presence was awakening something in the environment. The planet itself seemed to respond to her. He glanced at her. You're not just a child, he said quietly. She looked back, her eyes full of innocence, yet carrying a wisdom that felt centuries old. She smiled faintly, as if agreeing, and for a moment, Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. But the distant roars grew louder, echoing through the cave. Ethan pressed forward, keeping her close. Every step he took was calculated, every breath measured. He could not afford a mistake. Then, without warning, the cave floor trembled. Rocks shifted, and dust rained down from the ceiling. The girl's hand shot out instinctively, and the tremor stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Ethan stared at her in shock. "You controlled that?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. She nodded slightly, her small chest rising and falling rapidly. It was clear. She was far more powerful than she looked. And if her powers were discovered by the wrong beings, they were both in serious danger. He sat beside her, trying to remain calm despite his racing heart. "We'll get through this," he said. "I don't know how yet, but I promise I won't let anything happen to you." The girl leaned against him, her trust unwavering. Ethan had faced alien storms, hostile planets, and deadly creatures, but nothing had ever felt as urgent, as terrifying, and as strangely hopeful as protecting her. A soft hum filled the cave, the girl's melody blending with the glowing symbols on the walls. Ethan realized something. This child might hold the key to secrets older than the galaxy itself. He could only imagine the danger that awaited outside. But for now, inside this cave, there was a fragile safety and a bond that was growing stronger with every passing second. If you are curious to see what happens next and how the alien girl's powers will change everything, make sure to subscribe to the channel. This story is just beginning, and trust me, you won't believe what comes next. Ethan and the alien girl moved quietly through the hidden tunnels of the cave. The glow from the bioluminescent plants lit their path, but the shadows seemed to twist and stretch unnaturally, as if watching them. Ethan could hear the distant roars again, louder now, echoing from the valley outside. The creatures, whatever they were, had found her. The girl clung to his side, her small hand gripping his jacket tightly. Her silver eyes darted around, wide with fear, yet there was a strange determination in her gaze. Ethan realized she understood the danger better than he did. He was human, relying on instincts and experience, but she had a connection to this planet that he could not comprehend. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Rocks fell from the ceiling, and dust filled the air. Ethan shielded the girl with his body, feeling her trembling against him. From deep within the cave, a low growl echoed, then another. The predators were here. Ethan drew his compact energy blade, its blue light cutting through the darkness. "Stay close," he whispered. "Don't make a sound." The girl nodded, but didn't hide. Instead, she raised her hand, and the symbols on the cave walls glowed brightly, illuminating a secret exit. Ethan's jaw dropped. This child was more than she seemed. She could manipulate the environment around her. They rushed through the narrow passage, the walls trembling with each step. Outside, the valley was alive with danger. Towering alien creatures, sleek and terrifying, prowled the rocky terrain. Their eyes glowed with hunger, and their claws tore the crimson soil as they searched for the girl. Ethan ducked behind a boulder, holding the girl close. "They're fast," he muttered. "We can't outrun them in the open." The girl's small hand touched his arm, and suddenly the ground beneath them trembled again, but this time intentionally. Rocks shifted, creating barriers and blocking the path of the creatures. The predators growled in frustration, unable to reach them. Ethan's eyes widened. You're protecting us," he exclaimed. The girl nodded silently, concentrating hard. Her energy seemed to flow into the planet itself, manipulating the rocks and plants to shield them. Ethan realized the scale of her power. It was incredible, almost unimaginable. But even as they moved through the dangerous terrain, the enemies were relentless. More of them appeared from the shadows, faster and smarter than Ethan expected. Each time they thought they had found safety, the creatures adapted, circling around them. He realized that escaping alone would be impossible. The girl whispered something in her alien language. Ethan didn't understand the words, but the tone was urgent. Suddenly, she lifted her hand, and a pulse of light shot out from her body. The predators roared and recoiled, momentarily blinded. Ethan took advantage of the chaos, pulling her along as they sprinted toward a hidden ravine he had spotted earlier. As they ran, Ethan thought about her past. Who was she? Why was she here alone on this dangerous planet? And most importantly, why did she trust him so completely? Her powers were extraordinary, yes, but they were also a beacon, attracting dangers they could barely imagine. He had to keep her safe, no matter what. They reached the edge of the ravine, where a network of narrow ledges stretched over a deep chasm. One wrong step could mean certain death. Ethan paused, holding the girl tightly. "We have to be careful now," he said. The girl nodded, her silver eyes glowing faintly. She stepped onto the first ledge, balancing with surprising agility. Ethan followed, guiding her every step. From behind, the roars grew louder. The predators were not giving up. One of them leaped onto the edge of the ravine, claws scraping against the rocks. Ethan swung his blade, holding it back just long enough to let the girl pass. They moved carefully, every step tense, every movement precise. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a hidden alcove high above the ravine. The predators could not reach them here. Ethan slumped against the wall, catching his breath. The girl sat beside him, looking exhausted but alert. Her silver eyes scanned the valley below, as if she could sense every movement of their pursuers. Ethan realized something important. She was not just a child in need of protection. She was powerful, capable of changing the environment itself, and maybe even the course of the conflict that had brought her here. But that power came with danger. Whoever or whatever was chasing her would not stop until they had her. He glanced at her, determination in his eyes. "We'll figure this out," he said softly. "No matter what it takes, I'll keep you safe." The girl looked up at him and gave a small, almost human smile. In that moment, Ethan knew their bond had deepened. They were no longer just a human and an alien child. They were a team, bound by trust and necessity. And far below, in the shadows of the valley, the predators were watching, waiting, and planning their next move. The adventure is just beginning. If you want to see how Ethan and the alien girl face the dangers ahead, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned. The next part is even more thrilling. You won't believe what comes next. Ethan and the alien girl crouched in the hidden alcove above the ravine. The predators had retreated for now, but their glowing eyes still haunted the shadows below. Ethan's chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath. The girl sat silently, her silver eyes reflecting the faint glow of the bioluminescent plants around them. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then the girl's small hand moved to her chest, over where her heart would be. She whispered something in her alien language, a soft, trembling trill that Ethan could almost understand, though the words were strange. Her voice was full of sadness and memory, as if she carried a past heavier than the mountains around them. Ethan crouched beside her. You're remembering something, aren't you?" he asked softly. The girl nodded slightly, tears welling in her shining eyes. Images flickered in his mind, again glimpses of a world far different from Zarathus. Cities that floated in the sky, creatures of light and energy, and a war that had torn everything apart. He realized that this child was more than just an orphan. She was the last of her kind, a survivor of a civilization destroyed long ago. Her powers were not random, they were a legacy, a remnant of an ancient race with abilities humans could barely imagine. "I see now why they are chasing you," Ethan said, voice low. "You are not just a child. You are something very important. Something powerful. The girl looked at him, her eyes wide but calm. She nodded, and for a brief moment, the weight of her solitude pressed down on them both. Suddenly, she extended her hand, and a small, holographic-like projection appeared above her palm. Ethereal images of her past floated in the air her family, her home planet, the battles that had destroyed everything she loved. Ethan watched, awe and sorrow mixing in his chest. The girl's story was tragic, yet somehow it was beautiful. It was a story of survival, of resilience, and of hope. They killed everyone, Ethan whispered, horrified. The girl's small hand clenched into a fist, and her silver eyes glowed brightly. Energy seemed to radiate from her, making the plants around them shimmer and bend. It was clear. Her powers were connected to her emotions, her memories, and her very soul. Ethan reached out, placing his hand gently on hers. "You don't have to face this alone," he said. "I'm here now. I'll help you." The girl's trembling eased slightly. For the first time since he found her, she seemed safe, if only for a moment, but safety was fleeting. A loud crack echoed through the valley below, a branch snapping, or perhaps something larger. Ethan's eyes darted to the shadows. The predators had returned, more organized and relentless than before. Their glowing eyes scanned the rocks, searching for any trace of the girl. "We have to move," he whispered urgently. The girl nodded, her small body rising with surprising strength. Ethan realized she was not just a child. She was determined, brave, and clever. Together, they could face more than he had initially imagined. As they prepared to descend the ledge, the girl whispered something new in her language. This time, Ethan sensed urgency and warning. The images of her past shifted, showing not just her family's demise, but also hints of a hidden secret, something that could change everything. She was not only powerful, she held knowledge and abilities that could turn the tide against anyone who hunted her. Ethan's mind raced. He needed to understand more. He needed to keep her alive, not just for her sake, but because the galaxy itself might depend on it. "Whatever it is," he said firmly, "we'll face it together. I promise." The girl looked up at him, and for a fleeting moment, there was a spark of hope in her eyes. The predators might be close, the dangers unimaginable, but together they could survive. Ethan felt a surge of determination he had never known before. He had faced storms, alien beasts, and hostile planets. But this journey, this responsibility, was unlike anything else. As they began to carefully make their way down the ledges, Ethan glanced at her. "We need a plan," he said quietly. "Something to stay ahead of them, and to uncover the truth about your past." The girl's silver eyes glowed softly, as if acknowledging his words. But in the distance, shadows moved faster, smarter, and more numerous than before. The predators had adapted. They were closing in, and soon there would be no place to hide. Ethan gritted his teeth, gripping the girl's small hand. "This isn't over," he said, voice low but steady. "Not by far. The story is reaching deeper secrets and dangers. If you want to see what happens when the past and present collide, make sure to subscribe. This next part will shock you and change everything. Ethan and the alien girl moved cautiously through a narrow canyon, the walls towering above them like silent sentinels. The girl's silver eyes darted from shadow to shadow, alert for any sign of danger. For hours, they had evaded the predators, but the tension never left the air. Every step could be their last. They had just stopped near a small underground spring to rest when Ethan noticed movement among the rocks. At first, he thought it was one of the predators, but as the figure emerged, his heart sank. It was another traveler, humanoid in shape, wearing a cloak that blended perfectly with the rocky terrain. At first glance, the stranger seemed friendly, even relieved to see them. "Are you two all right?" The stranger asked, voice calm but quick. I saw the commotion in the canyon. You must come with me. I can take you to safety. Ethan hesitated. Something in the stranger's eyes didn't feel right. But the girl, exhausted and frightened, clung to him, and he knew they had no choice. They needed a safe place, a moment to catch their breath. All right, Ethan said cautiously. Lead the way. The stranger smiled faintly, extending a hand. Follow me. There's a shelter not far from here. As they moved deeper into the canyon, Ethan kept his senses alert. He had survived countless dangerous encounters across the galaxy. An instinct told him this was no ordinary rescue. Every step, every shadow, made him tense. They reached a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. Inside, the air was cool and dry, and strange markings covered the walls. The stranger gestured for them to rest. You're safe here, he said. The girl's silver eyes scanned the cave cautiously, but did not resist. Hours passed. Ethan kept watch while the girl slept, her breathing steady and calm. Then, quietly, the stranger approached him. You're brave, he said softly. But bravery can be dangerous when you don't know the full story. Ethan's grip tightened on his energy blade. What do you mean? He asked. The stranger's eyes glinted with a mixture of amusement and malice. You think you're protecting her, but you're only delaying the inevitable. She is more valuable than you can imagine, and some of us will do anything to claim her. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He realized, too late, that they had walked into a trap. The stranger raised his hand, and an energy pulse shot toward the cave entrance. Outside, shadows moved rapidly, more predators, but this time they were organized, controlled, and deadly. The girl woke with a start, sensing the sudden change. Her silver eyes flared brightly, and the air around them shimmered with energy. Ethan held her close. Stay behind me, he shouted, but the stranger was faster than they anticipated. With a swift motion, he knocked Ethan off balance and grabbed the girl. She's coming with me, he said coldly. You can't stop this. Ethan leaped forward, swinging his blade, but the stranger blocked it effortlessly. The girl's small hands glowed with a blinding light, energy surging uncontrollably. Rocks in the cave lifted into the air, spinning and creating a chaotic storm around them. The stranger's face showed a flicker of surprise. He had underestimated her power. You can't control it yet, he hissed. You'll destroy everything? The girl's eyes widened, and energy shot out in all directions. Ethan realized that if they didn't act fast, the entire cave, and perhaps even the canyon, could collapse. With quick thinking, Ethan grabbed a heavy rock and used it to distract the stranger. The girl seized the moment, releasing a powerful pulse of energy that knocked the stranger back and sent him tumbling toward the edge of the cave. He snarled, swearing vengeance, but did not pursue them further. Breathing heavily, Ethan held the girl tightly. Are you okay? He asked. She nodded, though tears ran down her face. I didn't mean to, she whispered in her strange, melodic tongue. Ethan smiled faintly, stroking her hair. It's okay. You're learning, and that's what matters. Outside, the canyon was quiet again, but Ethan knew it was only temporary. The betrayal had shown them a harsh truth. Enemies were everywhere, and not all of them were obvious. They couldn't trust anyone easily, not even those who seemed kind. He looked at the girl, determination burning in his eyes. We'll keep moving. We'll stay ahead of them. And I promise, I won't let anyone hurt you again. The girl leaned against him, exhausted but trusting Dot from the shadows of the canyon. Distant roars and whispers reminded Ethan that the galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of secrets. But he also knew one thing together. They were stronger than anything that came for them. The danger is growing. The betrayal cuts deep, and the girl's powers are becoming unstoppable. If you want to see how Ethan and the alien girl fight back and unlock her true potential, subscribe now. This adventure is about to get even more intense. Ethan and the alien girl moved quickly through the dense forest at the edge of the canyon. The betrayal still weighed heavily on Ethan's mind, but he knew there was no time to dwell. Every step they took brought them closer to danger and closer to understanding the true extent of the girl's powers. The girl walked beside him, her small hand gripping his sleeve tightly. Her silver eyes flickered with uncertainty, but there was also determination. She had seen the danger, felt her power grow uncontrollably, and realized that learning to control it was not a choice, it was a necessity. They reached a clearing where the twin suns had nearly set, casting long shadows over the alien flora. Ethan set down his pack and knelt in front of her. "We need to train," he said quietly. "You have incredible power, but you can't control it if you don't understand it." The girl looked hesitant, fear mixed with curiosity. Ethan held her hands in his own. "I'll be with you the whole time. You're not alone." Slowly she nodded, and a soft hum escaped her lips. The plants around them responded, glowing brighter, bending gently toward her. "Focus on your energy," Ethan instructed. "Feel it, don't fight it. Let it flow where you want it to." She closed her eyes, concentrating. At first, nothing happened, and she flinched as a small burst of energy shot into the ground, creating a small tremor. Ethan caught her in time, holding her steady. "Good, that's a start," he encouraged. "Now try again, but calmer. Think of a place you want it to go, not what you fear." Slowly, the girl's hands glowed softly, and a beam of energy rose into the air, controlled and steady. Ethan's eyes widened in amazement. "That's it. You're learning." For hours, they practiced. Each time, the girl grew stronger, more confident. Rocks levitated gently under her will. Plants bent toward her as if acknowledging her command, and the air around them shimmered with her energy. Ethan watched in awe. He had faced many extraordinary beings across the galaxy, but this child, this alien girl, was unlike any he had ever seen. As the sun finally disappeared behind the horizon, the distant roars returned. The predators were coming again, more organized and relentless than ever. Ethan and the girl had no choice. They had to face them, not run. "Are you ready?" Ethan asked. The girl's silver eyes glowed brightly. She nodded, a mixture of fear and determination in her gaze. "I can do this," she whispered. The predators appeared in the clearing, their glowing eyes reflecting the last light of the twin suns. They moved with terrifying speed, circling the two humans as if waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Ethan stepped forward, positioning himself between the girl and the attackers. "Stay calm," he instructed. "Focus your energy." The girl lifted her hands, and a wave of shimmering light spread across the clearing. The predators recoiled, their claws striking the ground as the energy pushed them back. Ethan watched in amazement as the girl directed the force precisely, forming a protective barrier around them. Her control was far better than before. One predator lunged from the shadows, fast and deadly. The girl's silver eyes widened, but she didn't panic. She focused, and the creature froze mid-leap, suspended in a gentle force field of light. Ethan swung his energy blade, distracting the others, giving her the chance to fully stabilize her powers. When the last predator had been forced back, the clearing fell silent. Ethan knelt beside her, his chest heaving. "You did it," he said softly. "You really did it." The girl smiled faintly, exhausted but proud. I can control it now," she whispered. Ethan hugged her tightly. "And together, we can face anything." They stood in the clearing, side by side, knowing that the predators were not the only threat they would face. There was a larger force out there, waiting for them, watching their every move. But for the first time, Ethan felt a sense of hope. The girl's powers were not just tools for survival. They were keys to uncovering her past, understanding her legacy, and perhaps even shaping the future of the galaxy. Ethan realized that she was no longer just a child to protect. She was a partner, a force unlike any he had ever known, and the bond they shared had grown stronger through danger and trust. From the shadows of the forest, distant eyes watched. The enemies were regrouping, planning their next move. But Ethan and the girl were ready. The journey ahead would be dangerous, and the final showdown was approaching. Yet they were no longer afraid. Together, they had the power, courage, and bond to face whatever the galaxy could throw at them. The ultimate confrontation is coming. If you want to witness the epic showdown and see the full power of the alien girl unleashed, make sure to subscribe. Part 7 will leave you on the edge of your seat. The night sky over Zarathus was dark and ominous, the twin moons casting pale light over the jagged mountains. Ethan and the alien girl stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the valley where the predators and the mysterious enemies had gathered. The girl's silver eyes glowed brighter than ever, her powers fully under control. She was no longer a frightened child. She was a force of nature. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "This is it. No more running," he said quietly. "Together we face them. And we survive." The girl nodded, her small face determined yet calm. Ethan felt a surge of pride and protectiveness. They had trained, fought, and survived together. Now it was time to end this. Below, the enemies moved with purpose. Shadows shifted as the predators, along with humanoid figures from the previous betrayal, coordinated their attack. Ethan scanned the area, calculating every step. He held his energy blade tightly and felt the girl's hand in his. Together, they could face anything. With a nod, the girl raised her hands. A radiant light burst from her body, illuminating the entire valley. Rocks levitated, trees bent, and the air shimmered with energy. The enemies stopped, shocked by the display. They had underestimated her. Ethan shouted, "Now we fight together." The girl's silver eyes flared, and a wave of energy surged outward, knocking the predators back and creating a protective barrier around them. The humanoid enemies lunged forward, but Ethan was ready. With precise movements, he used his energy blade to block attacks and create openings. The girl's powers responded to her emotions. Every surge of courage, every spark of trust made her energy stronger. She lifted massive boulders, twisted the ground beneath her enemies, and created bursts of light that disoriented their attackers. Ethan watched in awe, realizing that this child, this alien, was rewriting the rules of the battlefield. Suddenly, one of the humanoid enemies tried to grab the girl. In a flash, she extended her hands, and a wave of energy threw him back, safely away from her. She had full control now, a calm power that was unstoppable. The predators roared, but she redirected them, forcing them to flee the valley entirely. Ethan looked at her with amazement. "You did it. You controlled it. Perfectly." The girl smiled faintly, exhausted but triumphant. She turned to the remaining humanoid enemies, who now trembled before her. With a final pulse of her energy, she immobilized them completely, rendering them powerless without causing harm. As silence fell over the valley, Ethan realized something else. The girl's powers were not just for defense. They were a key to understanding her past and her place in the galaxy. The energy around her began to shift, forming a holographic projection. It revealed the history of her species, their legacy, and a message meant for someone strong enough to survive. She was the last hope of her people. Ethan knelt beside her. "You're more than just a survivor," he said softly. "You're a legend, a force that can change worlds. And I'm honored to stand by your side." The girl reached up, touching his cheek gently. Her trust, her bond with him, was stronger than ever. Together, they had faced impossible odds, and they had won. From the shadows of the mountains, distant stars seemed to sparkle brighter, as if the universe itself recognized her triumph. The predators were gone, the enemies defeated, and the valley was calm. But Ethan knew their journey was not over. The galaxy was vast, and mysteries still waited. Yet for now, they had survived, and together, they were unstoppable. The girl looked up at him, eyes full of wonder and strength. "What happens now?" she whispered. Ethan smiled, wrapping his arm around her. "Now, we find out. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The twin moons reflected in her silver eyes as the wind whispered through the valley. A new dawn was coming for them both, one filled with possibility, adventure, and hope. And as they stood side by side, Ethan knew that the story of the orphaned alien girl and the human who protected her was only just beginning. The adventure ends here. For now. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more epic HFY sci-fi adventures, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. The galaxy is full of secrets, and we're just getting started.